You ever wonder how a book on military strategy written something like 2,400 years ago is still required reading for CEOs, coaches, and leaders all over the world? Well, it's because The Art of War isn't really just about war. It's about a timeless formula for winning. So let's unpack this ancient masterclass on strategy, and it all starts with what might be the most intense job interview in history.
So, the story goes, Sun Tzu himself is presenting his 13 chapters on strategy to King Hou of Wu. Now the king, he's impressed. The theory is brilliant, but he's got one really important question. Does any of this actually work in the real world? He wants to see it in action. He wants a demonstration.
And there it is. The king throws down the gauntlet. He's basically saying, this all sounds great on paper, Sun Tzu, but can you prove it? You know, the fate of his entire philosophy is kind of hanging in the balance here. And Sun Tzu's response? A cool, simple, you may.
Okay, so then the king throws a massive curveball. He's not bringing out soldiers. Instead, 180 palace ladies are brought out for this drill. And Sun Tzu, he doesn't even flinch. He just divides them into two companies, and then get this, he appoints the king's two favorite concubines to be their commanders. I mean, the stage is set for some serious drama.
So Sun Tzu explains the basic commands, left turn, right turn. The women say they get it, he sounds the drum, and they just start giggling. It's a complete and total flop, but watch what he does next. He doesn't blame his new soldiers. Nope, he blames himself.
He just straight up takes responsibility. And right there, that's lesson number 1 in Sun Tzu's masterclass on leadership. Clarity is the commander's job. If your team doesn't understand the mission, that's on you. So he patiently explains all the commands again, making absolutely sure they are crystal clear.
The drum sounds a second time, and, you guessed it, the women just laugh again. But this time, everything has changed. The orders were clear. The failure to obey was no longer his fault. Sun Tzu declares that the responsibility now falls on the officers, and he gives the order to have the king's two favorites executed. This test just got deadly serious.
As you can imagine, the king is horrified. He sends a message begging Sun Tzu to stop the execution. But Sun Tzu fires back with this legendary reply. He's establishing a core principle right here. A general in the field has absolute authority. You can't have interference from the throne, not even from the king himself, because it completely undermines command. He refuses the king's order.
So the leaders are executed, new ones are put in their place, and when the drum sounds for the third time, well, the result is perfect, silent, immediate discipline. Sun Tzu proved his point in the most dramatic way possible. With clear commands and very real, inescapable consequences, any group can become a disciplined, effective unit.
But here's the thing. That brutal demonstration of authority, it wasn't just about showing who was boss. It was about laying the foundation for Sun Tzu's most profound philosophy, that the greatest victory imaginable is the one you win without ever having to fight.
This right here, this is the absolute pinnacle of strategy. It's not about crushing your enemy on the battlefield. It's about outthinking them, outmaneuvering them so completely that they basically give up before a single blow is struck. It's about making the actual fight totally irrelevant.
I mean, think about it this way. On one side, you have that bloody, obvious victory. Conquering an army in battle. That's what most of us think of when we hear the word winning. But Sun Tzu says, that's a lesser skill. True mastery, what he calls supreme excellence, is achieving your goal so skillfully that the other side just capitulates. No fighting necessary. You save lives, you save resources, everybody wins. Well, you win more.
Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you win without having to fight? Well, for Sun Tzu, it wasn't about luck or just having a gut feeling. No, strategy was a science. He believed you could actually calculate the outcome of any conflict by analyzing 5 key factors.
And these are the fundamentals. First, the moral law. Are your people truly behind you? Are you all on the same page? Then, heaven. Is the timing right? Are the conditions in your favor? Third is earth. Is the terrain, the ground you're on, an advantage or a liability? Then you have the commander. What's the quality of the leadership on both sides? And finally, method and discipline. How solid is your organization, your supply chain, your whole operation? You can think of it like the original SWOT analysis. If you master these 5 factors for both yourself and your opponent, Sun Tzu believed you could predict the winner before anyone even makes a move.
So once you've done all that homework, you've done the calculation, now you're ready to act. And for Sun Tzu, every single effective action you take from here on out is built on one incredibly powerful psychological principle.
This is maybe his most famous line ever, and the point is crucial. You must never, ever reveal your true strength, your real position, or what you're actually planning to do. Because the real battle isn't fought on the ground, it's fought in the mind of your opponent.
And he literally gives us the playbook for it. Appear weak when you're actually strong. Look like you're doing nothing when you're about to move. Create illusions of chaos and disorder to lure the enemy into a trap. Let them get cocky. You're not just fighting them, you're controlling their reality. You're forcing them to play a game where you've already written all the rules.
So you take the discipline, you take the strategic calculations, you take the art of deception, and all of it, every last bit, builds to the single most powerful and lasting piece of wisdom in the entire book.
And there it is. This is the ultimate synthesis of everything. Victory isn't about having the biggest army or the best weapons. It's about having superior information. It means you have to have a brutally honest assessment of your own strengths and your own weaknesses. And just as important, you have to understand your opponent with that exact same level of clarity.
And when you break it down like this, the stakes become crystal clear. If you have complete knowledge of both yourself and your enemy, you're basically unbeatable. You know yourself, but you're clueless about your adversary? Well, your odds are about 50-50. And if you know nothing about either side, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose, every single time. Intelligence and self-awareness, they are your most powerful weapons.
And you know, this is why, over 2 millennia later, we are still talking about this book. Because it doesn't matter if your battlefield is a boardroom, or a football field, or even just a personal goal you're trying to reach. The principles are universal. Preparation always beats improvisation. Knowledge always beats assumption. And the greatest victory is always the one you win before the fighting even has a chance to start.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. If you start applying Sun Tzu's way of thinking, this lens of strategy, of knowing your landscape and really knowing yourself, what conflict in your life, big or small, are you already in that you haven't even realized? And more importantly, are you prepared to win it?